Erev Tov, everyone. Erev Tov. It is Monday night. It is 8 p.m. here on the east side of the United States, here in the diaspora. This is the Maimon Beit Knesset, therefore I must be Zeyde Story Corner. That's right, Zeyde Story Corner. And we are continuing our stories from the Jewish stories from the Sephardic tradition. And so far they have been pretty good. They have been really good. Yeah, they have been. So let's see who we have in the chat room. We have, let's see, we have Ronald, Yehuda, and Simcha in the chat room, and we have Richard, and more to come. Yep, more to come. And those watching in the background, too, that aren't in the chat room. And someday, someday, they'll come into the chat room, and it's a good group in there, and have a lot of fun. Okay, so let us get to our stories for tonight. And I guess the first story is what? Half a friend. Half a friend. Okay, that sounds interesting. So let me get you on your camera. And there I am. I am on my camera. There we go. Okay. Let's see. Let's adjust the camera a little bit. Yeah, let's see if we can do that. Maybe that's better. Yeah, that is better. Okay, so maybe just a little more. Okay, let's see if we can just a little more. Yeah, that should do it. Okay, so this story is called Half a Friend. Once there was a rabbi who had a son. This son had many friends. You have such faith in all your friends, his father told him. Heaven forbid you should ever be in trouble. If you get in trouble, you will see whether your friends stand in line to help you. Test them, he suggested. Take a sheep's head, put it in a sack, and at midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, go knock on the door of your best friend and tell him, "Look, I am in terrible scrape. I don't know what got into me, but I grabbed somebody's head and killed him. Let me come inside and hide." So he did, and the best friend said, "My dear friend, I'm afraid that they'll find you in my house." So the son went around to all his friends, and none of them would let him in. "You see," his father told him, "I have only one friend, and even him I call half a friend." "Father, send me to your friend," he answered. The friend lived in Egypt, Mitzrayim. The rabbi lived in the land of Israel. This friend gave the son a royal welcome. He gave the young man the keys to his whole house, all his wealth. He made him feel like a member of the family. The son stayed there a long time. He took the keys and opened whatever storeroom and cupboard he felt like. He walked around outside. It was a large house with spacious grounds. He came across an outbuilding and tried to open it, but none of the keys fitted. "What is this?" he asked the servant. "He gave me all his wealth, but not this?" At once he thought about his father, how his father had said, "half a friend." That must mean that he knew there was something. He fell ill. He lost weight because he wanted to see what was in the outbuilding. So his host told him, Many years earlier, I had been very poor. They brought a girl to this city and wanted to put her in a convent. So he bought her. He was poor and had no money for celebrating Pesach. So he went to see if people would lend him money to celebrate the Pesach. He had collected 3 pounds when this Christian came and offered to sell the girl, and he bought her. Instead of bringing home food, he brought home another mouth to feed. But from that time, he had become rich because he thought she had brought him luck. He didn't want her to marry. Instead, he built this house for her. There were 20 girls there to keep her company in the rotation. The young man wanted to see her. The friend put her in a room by herself. The son saw her and fell in love with her. "For my friend's son," the man said, "what will be, will be." He married them, and they traveled back to the land of Israel. The rich man became poor, little by little, not in the way it happens in stories. When he was very poor, his wife told him, "Go visit your friend. After all, you gave him your luck." So he went. But the rabbi said, "I don't know you." That night, someone stole the king's crown. The friend was sleeping in the street. The watchman who went looking for the thief found him. "Yes," he said, "I stole this treasure." "Where is it?" "I don't know." At the trial, he was sentenced to hang. The verdict was published throughout the city. The rabbi too heard about it and came to the scaffold. The king stood by the window opposite the gallows. They were putting the noose on the poor man, and the rabbi tried to pull the rope onto himself. Seeing this, the king called out to the hangman, "Stop!" He summoned the friends inside. "Why are you fighting?" he asked. "I have never heard of anything like this before." The rabbi explained, "A Jew must never rely on a human being. Back in his house, he thought he could come and I would help him. But I'm only a human being. He should have said, 'With God's help, perhaps I'll go there and perhaps God will help me.' And he will, but simply to come to me, certain that I would help him? So I said, 'I don't know him. He should ask for God's help.' If that's the kind of friends you are, I want to be a third." Interesting story, huh? Not quite the ending you would expect. Okay, so now we get past all of the notes and more notes and more notes. Okay, this one is a little bit different. This one is called "The Man Who Knew All About Animals, Diamonds, and People's Character." Once there was a poor man, as the stories so often start out. It never starts out with a rich man. Yeah, I noticed that. It usually starts out with a poor man. Well, anyway, that's the story. Okay, so once there was a poor man who had 10 sons. One of them was clever and knew all about animals, diamonds, and people's character. But he had no luck and no job. His father went to the king. He told him, among other things, I have a son who understands animals, diamonds, and people's character. Fine, said the king, bring him here. When the young man arrived at court, the king instructed his cook to give him half a loaf of bread every day. Fine, this went on for 1 day, 2 days, a week, a month. The young man saw how things were going. This is a living? One day, someone gave the king a present, a horse. But this was no ordinary stallion. There was none more handsome in the whole world. With such a long neck and such legs, it had no peer. The king was very pleased with the gift. Suddenly, he remembered, there's someone in my court who knows all about animals. Called the man. They summoned the young man. When he came, he glanced at the horse. You must not ride this horse, your majesty. It will kill you. How do you know that's true? Get them to bring a condemned prisoner, and then you'll see. So they fetched a condemned prisoner. Mount this horse and run away, the king told him. It's your chance for freedom. This prisoner was astounded at the turn of events, but freedom is freedom. So he climbed on the horse and galloped away. Farther and farther. The king watched as he galloped out of sight, still visible only through field glasses. What is this? Demanded the king of the young man. You said it would kill me. Patience, your majesty. Wait a bit longer. Just then, the horse threw the prisoner and trampled him to death. Give this man another half a loaf every day, the king instructed his cook. Time passed. One day, someone brought a diamond to the king and offered to sell it to him. The price? Its weight in gold. But you've never seen such a large diamond. The king was eager to buy it. His servant brought a balance and began to fill the other pan with gold. However much they put in, though, it wasn't enough. What was going on? Then the king remembered the young man. Fetch him here, he ordered. They brought him to the king. You understand these things? He asked the young man. Yes. How much is this diamond worth? The young man went over and removed the gold from the balance. In its place, he took a pinch of ashes and set it on the pan, opposite the diamond. At once the pan with the ashes fell, and the pan with the diamond shut up. What's going on here? It's not a diamond, it's a cow's eye. They kicked the merchant out. Give this man another half a loaf of bread every day, the king told his cook. The young man went back to his place. Some time later, the king said, We've asked him about two of his specialties, but not yet the third. Summon him. They called him before the king. Tell me, you also understand people's character? Yes. Then tell me, what do you understand about me? Who am I? You? You're a bastard. What? That's right, you're a bastard. When night fell, the king went and knocked on the door of his mother's house. Who's there? It's me, your son. She opened the door and he entered. He drew his sword and stuck it up against her stomach. Tell me, who am I? You? What's the matter? You're the king, the son of the king. If you don't tell me the truth, I'll kill you. And he brought the sword even closer to her skin. You know your father, that is the king, wasn't worth anything. And we had a baker who was handsome, so strong. You come from him. Now, what do you want? He left her. The next day he summoned the young man. Who told you I'm a bastard? Is that what they say in the street? No, heaven forbid. So how do you know? What do you mean? I saved your life? I saved you a lot of money? And the only reward you give me is half a loaf of bread? You'll have to be a real bastard to do that. The king gave him a sack of gold and let him bring his entire family to join him at court. Anything just so he would keep the king's secret to himself. Now that was a different story. Okay. Now we get by all the notes. And there are a lot of notes. For a short story, it's got a lot of notes. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Pages and pages of notes. Okay. So we are going to do this one again. This is like we did last week. We told one version of the story, and then we told a different version of the same story. Well, we are going to do the same this evening. So, this story is called This Too Shall Pass. Once there was a king who had an intelligent and honest counselor. All his advice to the king bore fruit. The king was extremely fond of him, but the other ministers, jealous of his close relationship with the king, developed a mortal hatred of him. Two ministers, in particular, loathed him more than the others did. They invented various false charges and shared their slander with the other ministers. Then, all the ministers agreed to inform the king of their final decision. Either he dismiss his counselor and send him into exile, or they would all resign their positions. Then they went to the king. When the king heard their report, he knew the accusation was false. But all the ministers acting in concert were too strong for him to resist, and he had no choice but to accede to their demand. He went to his counselor and told him, "My honest counselor, I have bad news for you. This is how the matter stands. Since I have no choice, you must leave the country. Whatever His Majesty commands, I am ready to do, replied the counselor, since I am your servant. But I do have one wish. What is that? Asked the king. I would like to present His Majesty with a ring to wear on his finger as a memento, which he can look at and remember me. The king did not object. Immediately, the counselor measured the king's finger and ordered a ring from the silversmith with the inscription, "This too shall pass," engraved on it. When the ring was ready, he gave it to the king, who put it on his finger and looked at it and read the inscription. In his heart he thought there must certainly be something hidden behind these words, and that this counselor had not had them engraved for no reason. The king asked the exiled counselor to keep in touch so he would know where he lived. So it was. The counselor left the country, but continued to correspond with the king. What happens to all men happens to the king as well. People are not always in fine spirits. Sometimes they fall into a black mood. Whenever the king was in a bad humor, he would look at the ring and laugh at "this too shall pass." It worked the other way too. Whenever he was in high spirits, he would look at the ring and its message that "this too shall pass." And then the king would remember that people are not always in a good mood. One day, the kingdom became involved in a border dispute with a neighboring country. Relations between the two governments had become worse and worse. The ministers did not know what to do. The king was in despair. He gripped his head as if it were about to fall and scratched his beard with nervous fingers. The ring got entangled in his hair. The king looked at it, read the inscription on it, and immediately remembered his counselor. At once he went to his ministers. Which of you was it who maliciously leveled false charges against my counselor, on account of which he was banished from this country, though innocent? If he were here with us today, he would save us from our peril. The ministers remained silent, but almost all of them looked at their two colleagues who had devised the plot. The two rose and went to the king. It was not from malice we did this, only out of envy, because of the excessive fortune that you showed him, more than any of the rest of us. At once the king decreed for them the same penalty meted out to his counselor, and he sent a special courier to summon him, the counselor, to return. When he received the message, the counselor came back and reported to the king. The king asked him how to deal with the neighboring country, relations which had gone from bad to worse. "I will go alone and settle the entire affair," replied the counselor, "on condition that the king give me his approval and signature." The king was overjoyed, for he knew that he could rely on his counselor. The king gave him a signed commission authorizing him to settle the matter as he saw fit. With this, the counselor traveled to the neighboring country, where he was received warmly because they knew him and his excellent qualities. After concluding an agreement satisfactory to both sides, the counselor returned to his king and country. The king was delighted. "What you have engraved on the ring," he said, "is true. This too shall pass." Everything, happy or sad, passes. You must never lose heart. It's kind of a nice story, isn't it? Okay, well, we are about at our halfway point. And as I said, we are going to tell this story in a different way, a different tradition. And we will do that when we come back from our break. So, we will go take our break, and we will be back in 6. Stay tuned.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Delicious things to eat.
The popcorn can't be beat. The sparkling drinks are just dandy. The chocolate bars and the candy. So let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
It's intermission time, folks, so hurry, hurry, hurry. Step right over to our refreshment center for the most extravagant array of refreshment goodies ever assembled under one roof. Enjoy breathtaking, mouth-watering goodies, everything from a snack to a delicious full meal. At our refreshment center, you'll find a large variety of goodies to satisfy your hunger, your thirst, or your sweet tooth. So hurry, hurry, hurry. Visit our refreshment center now. The show starts in 5 minutes. The show starts in 4 minutes. The show starts in 3 minutes. The show starts in 2 minutes. The show starts in 1 minute. And now, on with the show.
And we are back, just as promised. Okay, let's continue on with the story. Okay, just like the last time, this story comes from the Turkish tradition. It is also called This Too Will Pass. A little bit longer. Okay. I'll cite a nice story about King Solomon. May he rest in peace. Once in the middle of the summer, toward evening, when the air was clean, the sky was bright, and the dim sun was setting, King Solomon was sitting in his palace roof garden. Obviously, besides the temple, this was the tallest of the buildings in Jerusalem. From the rooftop, he observed the entire city, its homes, its walls, its palaces, its spectacular buildings with their stores, its market, and its trade. He took enormous pride from that sight, watching the city of Jerusalem. As he looked at people walking back and forth, he noticed a new sight. He saw there was a simple man, not from the royal family, all dressed from head to toes, with golden clothes. You gonna be all right there? Yeah, I'll be all right. Just a second. Okay, so the golden clothes. And he wondered about it. He sent his messengers to summon the man before the king. When the man came and stood in front of him, King Solomon asked him, "Where did you get all this gold? Are you a highway robber and a murderer? Are you robbing people and taking their money? I am the king sitting in judgment and need to know about this. As it is said, the king by justice establishes the land." The man answered him, Heaven forbid, I would never do such a thing, killing people and taking their money and property. I am working with both my hands and earn my livelihood with manual labor. The king then asked him, What is your craft? He answered, I am a good silversmith. As it is well known to His Highness, Jerusalem is considered to be the wealthiest city in the world, and people come here to trade from the four corners of the earth. Every day, kings, ministers, the wealthy merchants come to Jerusalem. One has a broken ring, the other a broken watch, and all of them come to me to repair them, these items, and I return them as new. A watch? Well, it's part of the story. What can you say? A watch! In King Solomon's time, a watch. Okay, anyway. The king asked him, Approximately how much do you earn in one day? The silversmith answered him, I earn a large sum every day. The king put his arm around the man's shoulder and said to him with a light smile on his lips, Well, you are indeed a very rich man. Not only can you dress up in clothes of gold, but you could eat gold if you desired. If you are such a wonderful craftsman that kings and ministers come to you to repair their jewelry and pay you handsomely, and, as I see, because of this you have become a rich man. Let me test your great craftsmanship and wonderful wisdom and see how much can you do. I command you, a royal command, to make for me such a wonderful ring that will be able to affect a man spiritually, changing his mood of the moment. If the man is happy, he will become sad when he looks at the ring. And if he is sad and worried, the ring will change his mood and he will become happy. If you can show me this, then I will know for sure that you are wonderful craftsmen, and I will reward you as befits your wisdom. I'll put you in charge of the royal treasuries, and you will not have to work so hard. But if you cannot fulfill my command, I'll cut off your head and give your flesh to the fowls of the air and to the beasts of the field. The silversmith asked the king to give him 3 days' time. After 3 days, at noon, the silversmith was to bring the ring to the king. If he did not abide by the king's command, he would die, as it is written, the king's wrath is like the angels of death. This from Mishle. Yeah, that is. It is. The silversmith had no choice but to go home and start working on the difficult task of the ring for the wise King Solomon. In his great craftsmanship, he had done many different strange rings, like the ring that kings have on their fingers. But he did not even know how and where to start for such a work as the king had requested. He did not know how he could do that, and therefore he grieved greatly because he feared death. His fear of death grew as the day and hour went by which he was supposed to bring the ring to the king as it approached. And he became desperate and was afraid that King Solomon would sentence him to capital punishment because he could not fulfill the command. How dare he disobey the royal command? But what the mind cannot do, time does. So it also happened to the grieved silversmith who was expecting to die. After 3 days, he went to the wise King Solomon, bringing with him several rings to show the king. As he was walking, full of fear, as a person walking to his death by a royal sentence, his heart was trembling with fear. He reached the great royal palace, which had thousands of chambers, rooms, and halls, up to the innermost royal chamber. And lo, and behold, Rehoboam, King Solomon's son, was sitting in front of the room. When Rehoboam, saw the silversmith, and his ashen face like the face of a dead man, he said, "The ruddiness departing and paleness supervising." The prince understood the matter, and it was cited in Yokut, the wise son, and like half a wise man, and wanted to save him from death. He asked him to engage him in conversation. "How will you be able to come before the king when you look like a dead man? Why are you so miserable?" The silversmith answered him, "I am walking to the king trembling, and my knees are knocking. I am bringing to the king a golden ring, but I doubt whether the king would like this expensive ring." And he told me how the king asked him to make such a ring that will change a man's mood every time. If he is sad, he will be happy, and when he looks at it. And if he is happy, he will be sad when he looks at it. I have done different rings, but I would not know how to make such a ring that will satisfy the king's wishes, and that will save me from death. When Prince Rehoboam heard these matters, he said to the silversmith, "Put one ring on my finger, and I'll show you how to make it." He gave him one ring, and Rehoboam put it on his finger. He took a nail and engraved on the ring the letters Gimel, Zayin, Yud, each in a different point on the ring. Then Rehoboam said to the silversmith, "Take this ring. I give it to you to bring to the king, and the king will favor you because of it, and will give you many presents, and will not punish you." When the silversmith heard the wise words of Rehoboam, he happily went to the king with the ring. When the king asked him for the ring, he gave him the ring. When the king examined the ring carefully, he recognized the 3 letters Gimel, Zayin, Yud at the 3 points on the ring. And the wise King Solomon, for whom all the mysteries and secrets are revealed and known, understood the wise hint and read, "Gam ze ya'avor." This too will pass. He then interpreted it. Every round thing, like an egg, cannot stand still in one place and rolls, making what is up down and what is down up. The same thing is with man. One time he is successful, and later he loses his success. And then he could regain it. If we examine it carefully, the entire world is like a ball. Therefore, it is said, it is a wheel that revolves in the world. When the king examined the ring with the initials Gimel Zayin Yud, he applied it to himself. This too will pass. That is to say, although now I am at the highest rank, a king of the whole world, and can enjoy all kinds of pleasures, this will not last forever. And my huge success will not last with me forever. No doubt, there will come a time when I will be expelled from my high royalty and from the pleasures that I enjoy at home and the honors bestowed upon me. Now the entire world is mine. When such thoughts came to Solomon's mind, he immediately grieved very much, since he worried about the horrible and terrible future that would come upon him without mercy. Indeed, it so happened to him. It befell him exactly as he interpreted it. A great trouble that never happened to an individual came upon him, and one that he could not have imagined beforehand. And it came upon him as an end of the world tragedy, demoting him from his high position. The demon, Asmodai, the king of the demons, came and removed Solomon's crown from his head and forcibly took his royal scepter away from him and threw him away to a remote country to wander for food and to suffer humiliation. Nothing was left for him from all his labor but his bag and staff. He shouted, "I am Solomon!" But none listened to him, and he wandered outside his state, naked, barefoot, and hungry for several days. It is likely that he then wrote the book of Ecclesiastes and said about the world that all its pleasures, utter futility, said Kohelet, utter futility. All is futile. If success and wealth stay with a person, it would be good. But since man is not sure of his wealth, as it is written, man does not abide in honor, what pleasure does he have in the world after he leaves his success? Therefore, the world and its pleasures seem worthless to him. But when Solomon, in his poverty, looked at the ring on his finger and read the initials Gimel Zayin Yud, this too will pass, it said to him, the trouble that came upon me will not last forever, and I hope one day to return and again be king of Israel. And so it happened. And there you go. That is the second version. I think I like the second version better. I think I have to agree with you. I think the second version was more interesting, at least. Yeah, I think so too. So we are going to finish with a real short story. It's kind of interesting. Yeah, it's called "Letters from the Angel of Death." Okay, it happened. Machane Yehuda. There was an old man there. What are you looking at? Oh, nothing. There was an old man there, and Satan came to him. Come. What do you mean? Your time has arrived. I have come to take your soul. What sort of procedure is this without any advance notice? What do you mean without notice? I sent you letters. What letters? I didn't get any letters. What do you mean? Hasn't your hair turned white? Just read the story, will you? Okay. Don't get too upset. It's not good for you. Okay. Anyway, hasn't your hair turned white? It used to be black, and now it's white. That was the first letter. And what's that on your eyes? Glasses? That was the second letter. And what do you have in your mouth? You're missing teeth. They've fallen out. That was the third letter. And what is that in your hand? A cane? That was the fourth letter. Enough now. Come along quietly. And he took him away. And there you go. It is the end of the stories. Okay. Next story is a bit longer, so we're going to have to wait till next week. Next week is called, the story is called There Is No Escaping Heaven's Decree, and it's another story about King Solomon. Okay, so don't forget, tomorrow night, the rabbis discuss at 8 p.m. Eastern. And then on Wednesday is the Torah study in depth with Rabbi A and Rabbi Ansel. And then Friday is Kabbalat and Mariv, the Shabbat service at 8 p.m. Eastern. And then Shabbat morning at 10 a.m. is Shachrit and Musaf. And then right back here on Monday for Zeyde Story Corner. We see you then. Good night. Laila Tov.